every single product. I think if you speak about tech, you have an idea to solve something, to solve a problem, but you need to be able to explain how you're solving that problem. You need people to care, you need people to relate. And the only way people care about anything is storytelling. So I think storytelling is really role to every single industry, including tech. What differentiates brands, what makes brands successful, lies in the storytelling. It could be the product, but it could also be the person. So if you think about Apple and you think about Steve Jobs, you think about Steve Jobs as a person, the story that they told you, that he's this genius, that he worked hard, it's the story that makes you relate to the man. And then if you think about Apple, it's the fact that they came in and they were so innovative and they were so different. But it's the story of Apple that kind of makes you want to know. And I think the unique thing about storytelling is that a good story, you don't even know that you're listening to it. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. And I think that has done justice to introduce us to the concept of story as a whole. Let's hear from Franklin. So Franklin, I want you to come from the perspective of marketing now. How exactly do you stand out with storytelling as far as the tech product is concerned? How do you stand out? How do you get a competitive edge with storytelling?
The best way to kick off with security stories first of all, understand what your brand stands for. What is your point to us from a sales perspective? We have this, we have that function. And you look at what aspect of storytelling is about human angle. Everybody has their own issues. Listen. So the thing is, what does your brand stand for? And then how do you solve a particular pain points for those people you're trying to connect with? Your product becomes a hero that comes to tell. So based on this issue, this is where your product comes to be that's the story system I'm talking about. So first of all, where does your brand fall in? It comes under your brand. So for example, has a monetization just Apple. You have the one where your product to give on this your storage system will also change based on that sense. If your product is independent of the corporate firm in which it founds itself, your storage system can change. That means the product in itself have to become sub-brands. That they themselves have to have a purpose, a point of view, their perspective, their issues on the whatever you want to solve from the consumer perspective. Then you become that hero that say, based on this is my perspective and these are the things I'm ready to play in your life that will help solve the problem. People relate with those things much more than trying to force fit each other. I think that's the best way for sales.
Yeah, well said. Thank you so much, Frank. Please put the figure together. That was really I want to hear from Emmanuel now. I know that Frank has talked about having systems. I think if you could just walk us through systems that you have currently at Money Point, as case studies for some of the campaigns that you run. How exactly do you transform or how do you transit from the functional bit of your product to stories that people can then identify with and relate with?
Okay, so I don't know how much I can share. It sounds.
Of course, I mean,
I understand. Yeah, or so how we think about it. So like I mentioned, it's a very, very important point made on having a point of view, what story you want to tell. So one thing we want to say is, if we don't have anything to say about a particular issue, we'd rather not say anything at all. So you always have a point of view, and then how we typically craft it is to walk away backwards from user feedback. So think about this. Maybe why should you care about this in the first place? Then, so who is the user? Why should they care? Also, what do you want to tell them that is relevant to them? So if I have a woman who says I'm on the street or in the shop and I want to tell a story, what am I trying to communicate with that story? I want to tell every other food vendor out there that when you want to have a payment system, you should think about one point. So that's the way to think about it. Then the other question is, how do you get to these people? But your blog is probably useless. If they're hanging out offline, they're actually in the streets and talk to them, find out what they want. Then if you're writing for different type of what I'd say you're trying to position yourself to people.
Yohani, please just help me give the mic to Yohani. I don't know. They have different edge when it comes to marketing and storytelling. Share some insights into how you approach affordable.
I think you pretty much covered the basic process, but I can add a little bit. So what we do at Flutterwave is we understand that sometimes visual conceptualizing or understanding a product can get quite complicated for people or requires them to do too much work, and you don't want your customer or your audience to do too much work. You want to bring it to them in the easiest and simplest way that they can understand it. And so what we do is we identify the moments and the human experiences behind the things that are happening. So payments, for example. A payment is a payment, but a payment is not a payment. Sometimes a payment is a bit of tension between the dates where a man and a woman are, like, they're having their first date and they're trying to figure out how to pay, and it's awkward and it's weird. Or a payment is life or death, and somebody needs to make a payment for a hospital bill, and you're telling the story. So finding the human moments behind the thing that you're trying to push, that really helps us tap into the emotion of it all and the authenticity of it all, right? Because then you're not taking something that's extremely abstract and you're saying payments and POS, checkouts, mobile money, and people are just like, okay. But then they understand when you say your mom is in the hospital and you need to make a payment for her immediately, or the hospital will not attend to her. That's anybody can really put themselves in that shoes. So that's how we think about it. Is we really try to take the abstract and bring it into real life, because we're not operating in a vacuum. We're not operating outside of human experiences. And I think that's the thing about storytelling, is like taking something that would normally have been quite methodical, quite numbers focused, and you just bring numbers and everything into it, but then making people connect to it, because you are remembering that your audience is made up of human beings, and then like using that to connect to it.
Yeah, please, a round of applause for so we give the mic to Inem now. I want to get a marketing professional's point of view, especially from the PR now. So I know that you already asked a lot about the kind of content that connects. So what I want to ask is, how do you strike balance between creativity and strategy now? So again, I know that content is coming from the strategy. Exactly do you translate this technical, level of what others are doing, for example, identify that trend and create a unique story for them?
Trends is like a discipline in itself, and there are different aspects of trends. So we have consumer trends, we have category trends, you could have marketing trends. But the best way to kick off, like you said, is first we'll start with what's happening in terms of how we interact with what's out there. So there are different aspects of different trends. Usually we have different aspects of trends. There's fad, something that comes with clothing, then there's what's fashionable for a period of time, so it's maybe long-term good. People are quite for a period of time, and then you have those that are very sticky for time. The key thing is not to jump on any of them, as you said. Most branding is first of all look at the pattern that arises from any of these trends. From the category, let's take food for example. Over a period of time, like chefs are becoming things, like they're becoming celebrities in themselves. The key thing to start off is, why is it happening now? And where's the origin of this trend? Why is it happening? What's trend? And what could possibly happen next? And then intersection of what's happening now and what's going to come in. So if you know it's going on next in terms of celebrity culture and feature film, and those they be part of the kicks off the trend. Really up to the regime. So you get inspired by it and it becomes a trend that everybody comes on to. That's a very good key to do. Now I'm inspired by different things. Like I said, I was watching a Korean TV show, I think it was called Culinary Report or something. Now, in watching it, what was interesting was not so much the different things the guys were doing in terms of it was the stories they were telling, in terms of what inspired them to prepare each show. And right there, for a 90-minute program, I was watching it for over 2 hours. Anything they were saying, I was checking it out and I was learning. Those things become content for tomorrow. So that becomes one, it's original. Two, it's currently happening now. But I'm inspired by the stories and what's happening from the Nigerian perspective that I could tell something so refreshing. I'm talking about maybe biohacking or ghost teachings from the Korean perspective that is totally new, and that's a way to use trends to do something that is relatable and not predate like what everybody is jumping on, but still be at that edge of innovation. That's the way I jump on. So.
Wow, fantastic. That's really insightful. I want to hear from Emmanuel now. I know that there's a key thing that Franklin said. Please let me give the mic to Emmanuel. Franklin says authenticity and ensuring what things that you're coming up with is unique and is original. So don't mind me, I'll be using it as case study. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I know that you have hands-on experience of this, and you need to tell us from a practical point of view. So it's not just it's no longer textbook as the case is. It makes it easier for us to relate and identify, because again, a lot of us have seen some of these things and we can relate with it. So I want to know, how do you stay original, or how do you make whatever it is that you're coming up with authentic and unique to you alone, such that if any other person does it, another and not their own original, how do you stay unique?
Interesting question. Yeah, so I guess you should look at it as, what is that thing that we know and we really no one else does? We don't want to just come outside and industries do we know more than anybody else. Like if anyone comes to say something about this particular space, then you just probably just stop meeting. You don't know it like we do. So one thing we try to do is, okay, what is that thing? Who are those people that we know more than any other person? So if you are running a payment business, your customers, like I said, are the heroes of your story. So if the person who is running your payment business, using your payment service is let's say it's a person in Kenya, and you want to craft a story about tailoring the tailoring industry, fashion industry, you should be able to talk to the tailors and say, okay, what are the experiences the tailors face on a day-to-day basis? You want to talk to pharmacists and say, okay, what time of your shop? Is it 7 p.m. like a big time? Is it 8 p.m. as a big time? So when you're telling these stories that is unique, you're telling it from the perspective of the products you have and the people who are using them. Those people, the heroes of your story, you're able to tell that story the way no one else can, because nobody else is. No one is offering the service you're offering. No one is offering the service to the same users you're offering. And even if they are, no one is seeing those insights in the way you're saying it. So that's how I'm thinking about it.
All right, thank you so much, Michael. It's a round of applause. I will give the mic to Nicole. And I like that you talked about making the humans the hero of whatever story that you're saying. Nicole, how can we or deepen our relationship with consumers with storytelling? How do we make people connect deeper with our brand? Again, he has talked about bringing these humans at the headline of whatever it is that we're selling. How can that action itself deepen people's connection with the brand?
I think I'm trying to look for a different angle, because I do think he kind of answered that in a way. From his answer, you can see how, like, through emotions and through everything we've spoken about already today, that human connection, like something that is relatable. I'm gonna maybe give an example of a brand that I think really has been able to connect with women generationally. Dove. So Dove has a phenomenal brand that is based on natural beauty, real beauty, just celebrating women. So there's a campaign personally that really connected with me that I've never been able to forget. It's called Dove Real Life Sketches. And basically they invited women off the street, working women, mothers, all kinds of women to their studios for an experiment, and essentially asked women to sit with a blind artist, and the artist was to sketch the women based on their description. So imagine you're sitting like so that they can draw you and explain what they look like, but coming to them, they also are women who had just met them to also describe themselves to so beautiful. And the point is that, if only you could see that you're beautiful. And I think it's such a power place to come from as a brand, because many people deal with body dysmorphia or just insecurities. So you're a brand that isn't, you're not a makeup brand, you can actually go wrong if you come from that perspective.
Wow, please a round of applause. I think that's just a very simple answer. For you to be as transparent as possible with your consumers, it helps them to really follow with you. I want to ask you one day the question now. So again, like I said, I'll easy to of you guys ask this very because again, I believe that there's a lot that you can learn from your brand, of course, from you as well. So again, this is me now asking if you could share with us an example of how your brand has helped, outpace competition with storytelling. Give us an instance that you've been able to use storytelling to get an extra edge.
So just to clarify that, while obviously we have competing brands, we also really believe that Flutter is a partnership, because recognizing the strength of other brands that are similar or different is really important, right? And I think that whole the popular saying like you can go far alone or you can go further with other people. Now, that aside, so a good example I think is one of our remittance product, which is our consumer product, Sender. We launched that brand with whiskey, and the reason for that is that we really try to find the authentic story behind payments, sending money home, African identity, but then kind of exporting that African identity to the UK, the US, and what that intersection looks like in a human being, right? And now in our heads, it was like very few people embody that. This was like after being in Lagos, our books and have this story about connection and about family and all of that. And so we launched it with whiskey. And then what we saw happen was like the stories just kept coming, because we launched with this slogan called "Put your money where your heart is," right? It's basically, just to give you guys some background, Sender allows people to send money from the UK, from the US, from Europe, back into Africa. Let's use Nigeria specifically, right? And people sending money, many times their family members sending money to their family members in the UK, and then they use the products to make payments for their wedding. And we're like, this is exactly what we're talking about. Like, this is exactly it, right? Like, you are having this huge moment in your life, and we are a part of that, even without us doing anything about inserting ourselves into that. Like, this is the thing about when I say payments are payments, or payments are more than just payments. It's like, this is the story behind products. right? And so we really wanted to tap into that, so we decided to amplify their story as far as we could, because it's a story about love, it's a story about family, it's a story about tradition, it's a story about technological innovation, and like everything. And it was so fantastic for us because we really enjoyed their story. Like even the story of friendship, everything was all well connected. We even had to like make an update estimate of that. That was just something that we really wanted to do because it was like, I mean, we didn't even know that. I think that's the thing about storytelling is when you amplify the human story, while you may not get something that people love with data and is the volume of it sometimes. But with anecdotal evidence, you sometimes don't have the volume that you always need to really kind of drive home the point. But the way you tell the story is what enables people to connect, because some of these things are universal. Let's say you're not married, but you do understand the concept of love and the concept of romance between two people. Let's say you are a parent, you know what it feels like for you to be able to support your child in a moment where they're getting married. Maybe they have parents, maybe they're excited, maybe they need advice. Then the tradition of it all about marriage and the institution of marriage, traditional. Basically, to round up my very long I think that once you tap into the humanity behind it, and this is something I genuinely believe, the humanity behind it, like Nicole said, the truth behind it and the authenticity, it will still come, it will keep coming up, right? That's how we thrive, that's how we succeed. As Flutterwave, we understand that there are people behind it. So let me and the emotion of people stuff, right? Influencers, building an audience. You notice that some influencers, they in their storytelling and in their being about sharing their life online, they evolve and they grow and they do this. The person is selling hair this week, and then their interests change, and then now they're into skincare, and they want a skincare brand, and then they're partnering with a fashion brand, and you're wondering, this person is just flip-flopping and hopping around and doesn't have a particular thing that they're doing. But the thing about it is they are telling the authentic story about their life and their interests, who their audience is always to tap into, as long as the audience can continue to relate with them. And that's the thing about, I think, being able to tap into the humanity of it all and the authenticity of it all, is you're going to be able to continue to get people to believe in you as long as you remain true, not stop.
All right, thank you so much, thank you for sharing that not too long story. All right, now we talk about channels, right? There's something you might say. I know that Emmanuel said something unique. He said it's important for you to think or whether they're offline or that. So I want to ask you, how do you adapt this unique stories? I mean, we've established the fact that it's important to have stories, and we've talked about different stories and all of that. So how do you adapt the stories to different channels, to this specific
content and adapt it for TikTok? So for instance, I'll give an example of this shit there. So they are really popular. I feel like TikTok really helps them, because what they will do is trending content for their long form content. They have I think over an hour worth of long content. Every time you have an episode on YouTube, it's over an hour. But then adapt the funny short clips for TikTok, and then from there people are actually interested enough to go back to YouTube. So it's first understanding all the different channels, right? How you are going to readapt each piece of content, and then understanding, I feel like it's really important to still have a form for your content. If you are creating a short form content, I think it's really important to still have somewhere that people can go if they choose to. So let's say I've seen the shit and gigs content on TikTok and find it about them. But imagine if they didn't have YouTube, imagine if they didn't have Instagram. So I think sometimes when we're creating content, it's important not to just focus on one thing or one channel. It's important to have different channels, and more importantly, have a home. anything that they are doing, like this specific sheets and things, that is still directed to their home. So have your different channels, figure out what they are, figure out how to distribute that content, take the short with TikTok, take the short funny, hilarious content to TikTok, with YouTube, take that, but figure out your home base and then just readapt from there.
Right, fantastic. So, thank you for finding out the niche channel of this, and then owning that channel, and then of course. So, what you're saying, Lord, is that she's just only in one place, but you know, have a home that you can then get, you can go to other channels to bring you know, more people back home. All right, that's fantastic. I'm asking, oh yeah, okay. You might want to say something to that.
Not only observing as someone who wants to work there, but to post content, like not content, which is the vibe for Instagram. Like Instagram really favors that like polish everything. Well, not anymore. Photoshop side now, but before Instagram is to read that like really.
All right, thank you so much, Randy. Frankly, I wanted to ask, you know, for early stage startups, because I think that's the majority of audience we have here this evening. What exactly are the key elements you think we should focus on in storytelling? Because again, I know storytelling has a lot of elements, a lot of parts to it. And again, one of the key things we talked about is, you know, how to ensure that you are true to yourself, true to your brand. We've talked about different channels and all of that. So what are the key elements that, you know, startups, especially some startups, might not have the funding or the backing or the reach that, you know, maybe other kind of startups have? But what are those essential that you believe that if you do this work, you are on the right track?
The first thing is to spend time building a brand identity. You must have some issues from everyone. I'm not just talking about the logo, I'm talking about from the music show to the kind of colors you own to your symbol. You must have a unique identifier.
Move on with that. So trying to find those stories. Who are the people? A shop owner that was robbed, and we're able to help him get back into business. Someone who wasn't able to start. So then you actually find those, and these are the people that are benefited from this. Can we tell your story? What would I run into business and all of that? So off the top of my head, I would say go and find these guys that are what the brand stands for. Yeah, so let me just stop.
Right. Thank you so much. To say what the brand stands for, and of course, I like the explanation to say we want to put you up on a platform that makes it easy for you to talk to the same. And if you have that general, really that's actually really nice. I know that you work with a lot of writers. You have to how you come up with stories in Nigeria. At least I think if you know that a good, you be in a better place. Because
when it comes to storytelling is actually telling the story to other people before you tell it to the world, right? So if you work with a brand or you I learned earlier on that being able to brainstorm is very important. So if somebody says, oh, I don't understand that, then you say, oh, okay, there might be an issue with the idea. Because sometimes ideas are really clear in our minds, but then when you tell the person, it might not be so clear. You think about the idea, and then you make sure you people around you, because people around you can strengthen that story. So,
I think you might not remember the question.
Yes, that is very important. So sometimes writers get so, sometimes I'm also guilty of the same content I have written, but when the person is reading the story and the person's coming up with a sentence and say, what does this mean? Can you see it? Like, this is the story, but it's not okay. Sometimes you're like, okay, don't trust what you just said, then maybe you don't have the person. Also, how people will see your story. Because by the time it goes out and every other person is seeing it, you will not be there to actually explain what you have in your head. And so that message go through it, you can actually filter it in yourself.
Alright, so that just speaks to collaboration, you know. So it's important for you to collaborate, especially when it comes to, because the story is not you. If it was for you, you would keep it in your diary. And you can always go back to it and you don't need to explain anything, but because it's for others, it's important to get their point of view. Now, I want to ask you one question now. I'm asking this because, again, I don't want it to look like it's all rosy, right? So I want to ask, what exactly would most likely be the misconceptions or the misses that maybe even for you or had as the train of thought or as a belief, but over time you've come to see that that's not really the way to go. Maybe because you made a mistake that cost you millions. Or maybe you have to learn the hard way, that you realize that, all this while I've always thought that this was the way to go, but now, what are those lessons that you think we could learn when it relates to storytelling?
Okay, I'm gonna take a page from Nicole's response. That I used to think I would get to a level where I would be so 100% confident in the work that we're doing all the time. But the thing about constantly evolving, you're always going to be a beginner at something. And so the misconception is that you're going to get to a level in your career or in your experience where you're so good at it, nothing goes wrong. That's false, okay? I think in life, there's no point you get to where you are firing on all cylinders at 100%. So bear that in mind. Then also, another misconception is that you're always going to be able to give 100 at all times. Also bear that in mind because you're a human being. You want human stories, acknowledge your humanity. Then, going back to the whole beginner thing, it's really important, I think, to consistently and constantly learn and put yourself in the uncomfortable position of being a learner and being a first-time man doing things. Because not only does it humble you a little bit, it also puts you in the mindset of people who don't have that experience, right? So if you constantly constantly evolve, put yourself in a position where you're constantly learning, but also then doing the right? Getting the opinion. And obviously, if someone gives you feedback that you don't like, go to someone that you think has your best interest at heart and get their own feedback, right? Because sometimes the vessel where the feedback is coming from is just a problem. But the message is the same. The message is the same. Maybe you're not in the right place to receive from this person, but then you're like, okay, this person knows me. They trust that I'm really at my job, and I'm this and I'm that. I will have issue. Okay, they must know what they're saying. I think that's the thing. Is that the misconception is you get to expert level. Canceling all the it doesn't happen. And then the second thing is you need feedback. To get better, you can't do without it really. Like speak to the authentic thing within yourself that wants to tell a story, that wants to work on something, but you get better with feedback. Right? Your output is better with feedback. I'm the kind of person who I'm very sensitive to feedback as well. Now I'll take a step away from the feedback and then I'll dance around it a little bit and I'll come back to it, which is the opposite of what I used to do before. Yes, I got rejected, kill the idea. I'm just like, if the person doesn't think it's that good, then there's no point, never mind. But now I think you can definitely make an idea better. And collaboration really, really, really makes you work better. Especially when you're working with people that also know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I used to have a mentor that always says that feedback is a gift. And the fact that even if the person hates you, the fact that they take time to tell you that, even if the person hates you, the person is spending time to look at your work and giving you that feedback is a gift. So you can tell what you want to do with that feedback. And then, of course, he also used to say that if somebody doesn't like you and the person is giving you feedback, if the person likes you, that the worst thing the person can do is not to give you any feedback at all. That no feedback at all is even worse. But the person says what you've done is bad, it's a feedback, just collect it. Right. So again, there's a school of thought for them. As we came to 2023-24, COVID, we started noticing, especially with the rise of cancel culture, that a lot of brands try as much as possible to move away from political, issues. Anything that would raise, there was the issue with Budweiser and the LGBTQ plus and all of that. So I want to ask you before, how do you manage storytelling, or rather, where do you stand when it comes to the student vibe? Do you think it's necessary for brands to also choose where they stand when it comes to political issues, when it comes to economic issues and all of that? Do you want to stand along with this, or would you rather go to school of thought that doesn't bother about all of that? Because if you ask me, one of the ways you can connect with people, identify with, but sometimes it doesn't downside. So where do you stand on this?
So it really depends. It depends on the kind of brand. I lived and worked in Dubai, and based on their religious, based on their religion and their laws, there are certain things that they don't align with, that Western values embrace. But instead of drawing a hard no, they just don't necessarily address. And I think that's okay. I think you should be able to decide whether you're going to take a big stand or not, depending on the outcome that you're looking for. I think what's difficult is, or what's tricky is performative alignment. So, okay, everybody's embracing LGBTQ, so let's just say happy Pride, but we can never have a gay brand ambassador. So just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Just do it unless you really believe it. Because I think people ultimately will always be able to tell if you're just doing it to look good or if it truly aligns with your brand values.
Okay, thank you for that. Again, if you have questions, I think we'll begin to take questions now. So if you have questions, I don't know how we want to do it. Maybe we'll get past the mic so that if there are questions, you can start preparing your questions. But before then, I want to have just one last round of final notes from our panelists. So that we can just, get more or less like a sign out. So let me start with you, Nick. So let's take everybody here to be your students because you're teaching us. So what would be your parting words now? Because I know a lot of people here are working in different industries, different sectors and all of that. What would be the unifying factor each person to go with that would stand out for them and would be impactful also in their individual careers?
So I would say with content, I think the most important thing to always remember and hold on to is that you need to have or forge an emotional connection with your audience. That's the whole point of it. If your content doesn't resonate, then you have to sorry. But that emotional connection is important. It's why, no shade, but it's why someone will choose Apple over Samsung. You know the Samsung is better. But I'm just saying, Apple has been able to, over the years, consistently forge an emotional connection with their ads, with their storytelling, with their with their campaigns where they have diverse people just doing things where you feel empowered, you feel motivated, and then obviously there's a story with the founder. So my take home is that you have to always forge an emotional connection with any piece of content you're putting out.
All right, thank you so much. Frankie, for you, what I would like you to talk to us about is what to look out for now in terms of trends. So as we're going on now, what are those things you believe we should already start working around, or that you feel we start practicing from tomorrow, whether it's in terms of content or in terms of trends that we could easily just into, and we can start from somewhere.
The best way to look at it is for the products or for the business, start with things like platforms. That's the best way to move further than any other person. And a good example is if, for example, you're capable to sell a particular product or service, it's in something else. Now, like I said, first thing is helpful to say, okay, now I have created something to, these are the other benefits that you can connect or derive from your business. And sometimes even the sales aspect will be the last thing. So found practicalize what I'm saying. For example, look at what GT Bank did, and probably using this kind of one, but they're like the best examples we can give. One talking from a local perspective is culture as a platform. Now connecting, so that when you don't have an account with it, you're connecting first with the kind of experiences that happen to you. So from a local perspective, what kind of experience would you want your customers or your customers to connect with you? Create that experience for them. The second stage will now that you've created experience, how do you now connect them to tell them your story? How what did you create, like I said, create a unique identifier. You don't have to jump onto every platform or every channel just because it's there. Sometimes it can be very, especially if you have a 1-19 or a small startup, you don't have that kind of investment to derive from. Look at what you could take ownership of. For example, if it's memes that stand you out, if it's graphic storytelling, comic book style, if it's PDFs, if it's long form, if it's short videos, we don't have to jump into what everyone is doing. So trending brands that want to do something different are currently now, everyone is ensuring that they have their own ecosystem, which you have mentioned before. It's very easy to be counseled on something you're doing right now before you know that the platform for something. So for every brand, you must have your own ecosystem. You must have your website. It's like a no-brainer. You must have your website. For everything you're doing in terms of cloud, make sure you ensure you not only put up in the cloud, but also create different different slices of content from them that you know would connect to the story. You don't have to always do the videos, you don't have to always do the dance forms. Look at what engages your consumers best and take ownership of that product format. And then tell it, which is why I said create a platform, productifies that thing. If you know people like a particular kind of story, you're always sharing, then create experience where people can come connect to them, either with VR or AR, let them come connect to those experiences, get feedback, and then use that to now use as content formats. That's the best way you can always approach those things. You don't have to post every day, you don't have to feel this into always do what others are doing. But those are the best ways some brands are doing right now, and that's happening.
All right, thank you so much. So it's looking like I might need to have a deeper into this. Nicole, let's
My final thoughts would be entrepreneurs. I think sometimes when you are caught in the thick of work and bills and life, you kind of forget, your why. And you're doing so many multiple things, it's very easy to just lose track. So I think yourself away from your teams and remembering your why, the thing that made you want to start this business, the problem that you're solving, the purpose that you're filling. Remember that why, write it down, put it on a post-it, stick it on your mirror, so that every morning when you wake up, you remember it's not about the problems, because problem not be finished. Life is gonna lie to you. But if you can remember your why, it will propel you further. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Well said, Nicole. All right, Emmanuel, let's get your take.
Okay, guess it's quite simple for me. I would say for every story you want to tell, try to figure out the objective as early as possible. That should be the first thing you do. What's the objective? Because it then informs how you approach everything else. It then informs where you target, who you target. So, you also have to try to find out if you align with what you stand for as a brand, like I mentioned before. And essentially, you want to make sure you're not creating content for the sake of it. Because you heard content is king, there's no need to create one. Figure out what you have to say, your POV, and really figure out what your objective, what you're trying to achieve, what emotion you want to elicit from whoever you're talking to. If you're talking to a family-owned business, there's a way you're going to talk to them compared to a pharmacist, a trained pharmacist. So, yeah, you just have to actually figure out your objective from the get-go and make sure you sort it out. So, content is king, but it's not always good content. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Round of applause for Emmanuel. You, let's have you. Your final thoughts.
My final thought is, as a brand, you really want to create, this is something I learned on my own, you want to create surround sound for the goodness of what you do. So either you can try as much as possible to tell your own story. The story then becomes more believable when there are third-party validators that are not a part of your brand saying that this is actually good, and I actually really enjoy doing this. So with your customers, then become evangelists of the work that you're doing. So as much as possible, which is why testimonials have always been a thing, and they probably always be a thing, right? As much as possible, try to incorporate that into kind of your storytelling strategy in a way that is unique and authentic to you, but still don't neglect customer's point of view. Rubbish. Still value. Yeah, that's it.
All right, round of applause for me. To be honest, I really believe that this session is like the preamble to the master class. It feels like as if you should just say, okay, so from next week the master class will start. But you would have to pay. So, but I think we should have something like that coming up in the months, because again, we cannot begin to cover the length and breadth of storytelling and marketing and content in 1 hour or even in a Saturday, right? So I believe that this is something that we also need to evolve and develop yourself as well. And like I said, I think Franklin is having a training, so you can maybe have a conversation with you later to see how you can be a part of that if you're really looking to go into that. So do we have any questions in the house? Okay, so I see, let me see how we're going to do this now. How many people, let me see those hands up so that we can start. Okay, let's do like 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's start first with you. Oh, you think there was something?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. It's coming to you. What's your name?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Chida Robinson. I'm a screenwriter. Thank you all for being here today. It was an insightful session. So my question goes to you, it's around intellectual property because I'm a recent law graduate. And when I said my screenwriting, I did not know anybody basically. So producers were very hesitant to pick up my script. So most times I had to have my name removed to replace it with someone else's script, someone else's name. So as a last night, there's a particular story that we kind of spun off of me, because most times they'll tell you what they want. They say, okay, we want a happy story, we want a romantic story, we want this. But then this time I just wanted to create something personal. I was actually going through a difficult time, and I just let it out in a script. And so I sent it to the person that had been helping me send, and she's like, okay, just take out your name. And I did that. And recently, it has been coming back to me because I'm having many ideas that, around that idea. And I'm on YouTube last night, and this was like 8 months ago. It's over 2 million views, but it's not the views right now. It's the comments. Everybody can relate. Everybody can relate. And I want to do something like more in this line. And I'm like, I'm very ethical. I don't want to come out and be like, oh, you guys really got my story, because I agreed to let it go. So like, how do I take back what is mine without breaching that, ethical conduct, like without letting out this or that, and also without people being like, oh, okay, it's not your work, like you took it from somebody else's thing. You get so. Thank you.
Okay, Nicole.
Wow. First of all, I studied law as well, and I'm a screenwriter, so we have that in common. Well done for the writing that you've done. I think it's really difficult to have a story that is yours, and then somebody essentially takes credit for that story. I think the first mistake you made was taking your name off. You should never have taken your name off. I agree to that. Did you sign something towards that? You didn't. You just said. So I think you should speak to a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, who is versed in IP. I can give you a lawyer after this, just for you to just figure out what your rights are in that situation. But aside from legality, I think one piece of advice I'll give you is that, well, the great thing about creativity is that you will never be out of ideas, right? Somebody can steal one, but you have a million more, right? So moving forward, what you do, right? So if you see your story has 2 million views, that means you have the juice, you know that. So the next one, your name will be on top, you know what I mean? So sometimes it depends. You can look back, it doesn't mean you can't look back, but sometimes it's like going forward, how do I move now as a screenwriter? How do I protect my ideas? How do I align myself with producers who have my best interests? So we can talk about it.
All right, thank you so much for that. I hope that plays it. All right, let me pass it back. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your thoughts. Question is towards market leadership, acquisition, and to those in product and service. So we know that as the products, which means that I'm not taking it from the technical point now where you've done a good work doing the story, getting the right domains, and you know that you've gotten the story out there. Now people want to come in, but now there's a problem with the products. There's a problem with the customer service. There's a problem with, there's an experience you expect. When a story has been told, then you get a shitty service, a shitty product. So I'm asking now, how do storytellers bridge that gap? To what extent of influence do you guys have in driving products, driving customer experience, driving customer satisfaction? Okay, Emmanuel, let's hear you first. Then we'll come back to you.
Okay, yeah, so that's a really tricky one.
It's tricky because I think everybody that works in, like, you've had that experience, right? So it's like you're selling, you guys have told an amazing story, and then the product experience is not giving what you said it was going to give, and your customers are like, how far? This is not what you told me. So internally, the way I would address that is you have to take it all the way to the top. People will take your initiatives as seriously as you take them. If a customer is not able to get to the door after you've done your job, essentially the company is losing revenue. Take it straight to the numbers. You don't have to, storytelling is one thing. Let's talk about why we're here, right? This is a business that we're running. We've done marketing work that needs to be done to get people in the door. The balance is to be picked by those people to ensure that our customers are being onboarded properly and they're having a good experience of the product and they're having a good experience of the customer. Our customer experience is also fantastic. I would take it all the way to the top. I would find an advocate in leadership if I'm not in leadership myself. Find an advocate in leadership and then also make a business case for why exactly it is impacting to not be able to give their customers a good experience. Because there's competition out there, and trust me, this customer based on I'll take my head. As a result of ABC campaign was not as impactful as it could be, and the potential revenue ABCDE because of inefficiencies with onboarding, with customer experience, with stuff like that, right? Then you also take anecdotal evidence, customer complaints on Twitter, customer complaints in your comment section on Instagram. As in, find the information to make your case, or make your case.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it was a really tricky question because what you just said now, because sometimes you will see you've done a really good story and the first comment you see on Instagram is, oh, all guys are good, but where's the money?
I don't know.
So you were like, I'm struggling to do this story and all of that, but first things first, the product guys are always on those comments, so that's what the has always tried to do well. And just say, hey, let's solve the problem. And even when we go out to the streets, we see any business owner that has an issue. So one thing I try not to do is where one of our brand assets, because if they see that this person is from this company, oh, you're from this company, please come and repair my POS. They've actually given me a POS to repair before. But what we just do is, like she said, take it up as quickly as you can. And we set up a system where if I'm outside and I see a point device or anything, I have numbers that I can call. Like, there's someone in this place that needs this service. Please. Of someone actually help. And we're able to try and help. Like, if I'm faced when I got there was no way that I've told that story. So, first of all, fix the issue, and something every member within has to do. Like, once you go out and you find any issue, if you're working in marketing, say the consumer product, so ours is a bit easier because of our targeted businesses. So, has an issue, we try to, like, we don't try to do anything, we don't try to tell any story until we fix that person's issue. And same thing, once, check the comment section. Sorry, please. It's not an issue, but yeah, just try to put it as much as possible. Thank you.
All right. Emmanuel looks like he has been traumatized. All right. Who's the next person? Okay, I think he was good.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nicola, and my question is actually for you. I'm sort of like an operator of this system, of course, marketing. My day-to-day is with Saratoga in here. Early stage. My question is for from Wayne and then Franklin. When say storytelling, I was looking forward to hearing some perspective, which is in marketing we have this problem. When startup founders are thinking, it's probably a group of guys who are coding and finding solutions. And then when they're done, that's why they have that question. When they're done and they shift, hello, media buyer, look at you. I need, do you understand? Let me give you a brief. One of the reasons I was very inspired by the storytelling that Frankie said, which is from the outside. You would know the thing of because you saw the butterfly on their handle. It was that subtle. Yeah. And that something was so you need that if you have a bad day and you hadn't once you see looking at the butterfly on the hand, oh yeah, that's it. I don't care if you're working for that or you are the UX like that. I will attack you. Not that way I have a problem. Storytelling is just so subtle. It's what I want self-finance to start to understand from the outset. I promise you, from the brainstorming, marketing guys will tell you what you do not believe. A perfect that will help to even create a better product. Now, my question for Franklin is this: how do we communicate to them the power of storytelling that one, you are the founder, your story is your brand story. That's one. Two is that you have to, like you said, have story cases. You have to build your story and you have to tell it through the brand. Because what happens most times is we have hard products to sell because the person didn't think through or didn't involve somebody who tells stories during when they were ideating, and then it becomes a problem to sell. And then the ad fund, they don't even have money to run the ad in that day. So they are trying to be creative about it. So I need you to communicate the essence or the power of, if it's a ground don't take, something has to start your story for you to.
Yeah, thank you. I think I have different questions in this. From the founder's perspective, like when I was with Wendy's, we pushed forward because we took the founder's tip from our story, which was mostly Kara. So in any interview, everything that was driving the vision was, I was a kid that grew up on a farm, and I had a vision in terms of how I build an ecosystem for food operating system. It wasn't about B2B, about farm to table. It was, I had a love for farming and agriculture, and I wanted to see food and everything. Products and everything came on that thing. And so I think that is something that is key. We mentioned something now. What we also did, we had a symbol we used, which is the ants. And for everybody that ever vendor to have that ant thing on their handle. So even if you had any issue, you could already. We had an internal brainstorm where anyone that had any direct cost from the customer, I think we could go direct to particular people in the team. So as long as you saw that from it, you could share it to you could connect, open that from we're talking about when we have those attributes, it's true. We talk about all the nice and cool branding and stories, then the product stuff hits you in terms of it's an eyeball for higher price, what's going on? Iris making. Those kind of things you can't run away from them, especially if you're running a campaign. The cool thing for those things exactly is to have what I call great scenarios. When you're bringing stories out of a campaign, always great scenarios in terms of anything that happens, and usually have at least minimum of 2 to 3 of those scenarios. And again, those things are especially with the customer experience team and with vendors, it doesn't have to come back to marketing. Everybody is part of anyone doing this a campaign, everybody has a little bit of things in terms of if there's a crisis, what comes up, if there's a issue of price, what comes up. A good example would be if those things come back, and it could be anything from product fit to customer experience to your app is not working, immediately communicate that you recognize that problem, whether it's on it, immediately communicate, there's no need to hide from that. Especially if you check in real time that that's happening, communicate that you're sorry, those things are very, you could say, overdone, but it works best. Be very truthful. We're going to look into the issue, these issues. Immediately create a series of communication assets where you are giving continuous updates in terms of what you're doing. We work on this thing, it might not be ready in 2 weeks, it might be ready in 1 week, but these are the things we're doing around it. The thing is working. So those things are very important. While internally you guys are working, it's not cool for you to keep that gap until you think you're ready and you're excellent. It doesn't work out. At the end of the day, customers recognize that you're human, you also apologize, but also let them know what is going on. It's not like creating the journey, showing the journey behind that is going to bring about that thing. This guy is just like when you order for a food app and you're getting those series of milestones in terms of the guy has picked the app, the guy is on his way. The same thing you should also create with that customer, either through the DM or even to the larger audience. Product working on discovery, you'll get into going to happen. This is what people appreciate those things. And for where it's worked, it's also in the larger universe. And then internally, we're learning the lessons so that thing doesn't happen next time. I think that's those were things.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you. I don't know if Emmanuel or Yuadi wants to also say something to that. All right, let's have.
So my name is Aziz. This is a personal problem I have in my start. So if you have a product that, for instance, my B2B starts, as customers that crosses across several industries, like from the NGOs to the small startup to the churches. So how do you think we go about our story? Because we have different kinds of customers. And I was in the section with the mentor, was like, my website should be targeting one customer because we're just trying to be as large as possible in our story. But it's like we to concentrate on one customer. But we have customers across several industries. So now what we had is that we created several products, same thing, or targets, but it talks to different customers. So what's the solution to something like that?
I'll give it back to you now, but I saw something yesterday that said there's no such thing anymore as B2B. It's now H2H, human to human. So even if you have different sectors and different people that you're speaking to, different types of industries, everybody is human. So what are the universal things that appeal to human beings? That's where you start from.
That's awesome. Thank you. In addition to what she said, now I want to ask you back a couple of things. Could you give me some of the categories or sectors in which this traverses?
Churches, right?
Okay, so what? Religion?
Yeah, religion, and businesses.
B2B?
Yeah, B2B. It's B2B basically, but different sectors.
Different categories, so like statecraft and then B2B. You know, remember when I talked about having a unique brand architecture? So I think the first thing from a corporate brand is which brand architecture do you want to own? For if you have very target audiences, then the best one to do right out of the plate is have an endorsed brand. Also, where you have a corporate brand that is supporting or endorsing the different products or services or platforms that you have. So there's sort of like a derivation in terms of where this thing is coming from. People give that authority and respect. It can be 30 to 20%, and then your product on itself has that frontage and potential, which is 70%. If your corporate brand is totally devoid from what your different products are, so like if your corporate branding doesn't have anything to do with statecraft, religion, and stuff, and it's just independent, what we call a branded house. That means each of those brands, each of them, you have to look at them as sub-brands, and whether you like the time and investment you have to spend is creating that playbook, and you know what we talk about, creating unique brand identities for them, giving them a point of view or purpose, and then what is their tonality for each of those things. That is where the work comes in, and that's where the investment comes in. Connecting with them to me is the easier aspect. Because once you've analyzed who your customer is and the best channels, then it's easy to story systems for each of them. Like I said, I think one of the things that is making it sometimes a little bit unwieldy and stressful is you feel you have to use every channel to talk to every customer. I think truly you can only pay attention to the best one or two platforms, and then you own those platforms. For example, when you're talking about statecraft, you don't have to own more than 2 key platforms. It could be TV or online videos, so in terms of demonstration and stuff like that. And then you use maybe another thing to support your visual media, which would be images or stuff to give things like quotations or stuff like that. But so if you use 2 key channels for your 2 to 3 B2B platforms, I think that will be the key. So the first thing is create a unique brand identity for each of those products. And I don't know if you fall under branded house or monolithic. It will help if you tell me so I can give you a much more unique. If you pick the monolithic, that would help as well. That means everything has a unifying name and value system, which is what we recommend for startups, especially those that are playing across different countries, so that you don't have to introduce the brand every time you're going into every state. Every investment you're doing is one time. Anytime you invest, it's on branding. So it's MTN safety, MTN prison, MTN statehood. And when I say that, look at your nomenclature itself. Sometimes that's why you need to refresh your brand. Perhaps if the names are, what's the word? Sometimes you have the name called Nexus, and the other one is Origin, and stuff like that. Look at if you could create a nomenclature so everything becomes, you use a key primary name, and then each of them category names. So for example, again, so let's say Startup Lagos wants to go into different product ventures. Startup Lagos is our primary identifier. So Startup Lagos, use a commodity name. Startup Lagos water. Startup Lagos beverage. Startup Lagos. So that becomes, so anytime you're investing in Startup Lagos, it becomes a key name you are pushing outside. I think you understand that. So I think that's one of the key problems. But again, I can give you some details if you give me some perspectives on which architecture you have.
Yeah, so what you said is very important, but I think I wanted to ask you, what the B2B solution, is it one product or different products? One product.
But we now created several products because so that to target several. But it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so while you're trying to pick product, you should also look at, okay, what is that unique problem that you're solving across all the industries? You could be speaking to just one person still across those industries. So let's say you have a platform like WordPress. It's not just one type of company that uses WordPress. A bunch of companies use WordPress. The marketing company, the product company, all of them, but they have different use cases for it. But there's one person in those different places that have need for WordPress, which is the creator, storyteller. So what are you telling the person that has that product, the need for that product in that space? Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, so I wanted to add that identifying your audience, like you said, is great. And then another thing is finding your unique selling proposition for each sector as well. And then, I'm not sure the name of your company, but let's say Startup Lagos. It can be Startup Lagos for tech companies, and then Startup Lagos for beauty. And then you're speaking to how exactly Startup Lagos supports the beauty industry. It's the same product, but it's like packaging it in a way, in a language they understand, and also showcasing that you understand their own needs as well as the customer. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Inem, I don't know if you want to also speak to that, especially since you work with since you work with a lot of brands across different sectors.
I didn't want to tell everything, so.
All right. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time today. My name is Oluwadamilola Sojourner with Sustainability and Innovation of Gravitas Investments Limited. We're city developers, so I'm not in marketing or anything like that, but I'm thrust into that space. So my question is similar to kind of what she said. We're going to kind of combine both questions. I don't know if, yeah. So say I'm in a situation where branding and the story hasn't been thought about. They just went straight to the product. You're not trying to backtrack and create that brand from what you already have existing. But then in that situation, the product itself isn't ready. It's real estate, so it's more longer term. But you want to start marketing for both raising awareness, but then eventually selling the product. So my question is, in that kind of situation where there's no story or no brand per se in front of everyone, you probably haven't heard of that product or company before. And then we're trying to sell products down the line, but marketing it now when it's not ready. So it's not tangible, it's not something you can visit or touch, but you want to start raising awareness, you want to start building an experience that people can look forward to. How do you go about that from your perspective? Thank you.
I can start before I can actually answer. So because we've had those experiences as well, where we have a client come that is new to market and they haven't figured anything out, just know what they want to do, but maybe they've not launched it yet. We would first start in-house to figure out what is something interesting and unique about them. Because I'm sure like that market, or everyone likes to say the market is already saturated. So we'll start to figure out what is interesting and unique about them and how to craft their story. So I would say just probably get an agency.
If you can't get an agency, I think even as you were talking, I had an idea. So the concept of when you're dreaming for a house, or when you have a plan but you haven't yet seen it, I think that's very relatable. A lot of people are not where they want to be just yet. So I think that's an insight that you can actually leverage your storytelling around. So I'm sure you know where it's located. I'm sure you know what it's going to look like. There's renders, there's things like that. So you can speak from the idea of it's time to build your dream home. It's time to bring your dreams to life. You know, it's time to visualize who you want to be. If you're an entrepreneur, you're here, but in 5 years, you see yourself in the family, you see yourself in this kind of place. So you can speak to different types of people based on the price point. You can say, okay, you're not speaking to a founder, you're speaking to somebody who is maybe like, I don't know, senior leadership in banking, right? Who wants to be money, you know, or something. So you speak to that ambitious person, or you're speaking to somebody lower level who wants to be mid, you know. So figure out that audience and then use what you don't have to actually shape what you want.
Thanks. Let me answer that. If you mentioned, I think first of all is why do you feel you need to run a campaign? You need to also ask yourself why you feel you need to run a campaign. Yeah, so ask yourself, you feel what you're doing needs that bit of time, but there's that pressure. We also know what the ideal is and we know how working of it is, what the emphasis guys has come out. Then it's what you call an origin story. What's an origin story? And don't look to direct, at least like what you call your teaser phase. Don't look to mop up customers yet. Just try to create a community of believers. Create a unique proposition. For example, what I use my playbook, I call it I have an idea playbook. So I use it for startups. Where that thing you believe in, or that passion point you believe in, let's say create an original Ogogoro for single ladies. And the thing is, why do you think ladies can't drink? We have CCA codes. My target audience is not 20 to 25. I call them CCA codes. Use those local nouns. So what you are trying to do is you're happy for a community of believers that believe ladies is supposed to be shark. That will give you more virality and authenticity because you're not campaigning to sell the product story, but you are telling them, I have an idea. And then those people are even giving ideas, don't even put that thing that puts wrong when you launch them. You know, start giving. So before you know, you start creating a community of people that are loyal, not people that want to buy. By the time you're ready to launch, those insights you're using to give your product in there. Finally, I say that's what we'll talk about. I don't ready to launch, not ready. I work with me for you to work to.
Okay. Thank you so much, Frankie. I think we have just one more question.
Hi, good evening everybody. My name is Simba. I run a tech startup called TikTok. So we have a bit of a brand or identity issue, so maybe just walk us through this quickly. We've been processing transactions for over 3 years now, and we have maybe close to 900,000 users. So part of the issue with that is the idea behind the startup was to allow unbanked people to have access to financial services using airtime. So a number of people might not be banked, but they have a mobile phone, either a feature phone or a smartphone. So even with any of the devices, you can have access to financial services. But over the past years, we've realized that we have probably 2.5 categories of customers. You have the ones who are unbanked. Some of them don't even speak English, but they use your platform to have access to financial services. So they can convert their airtime to cash, they can send airtime to their relatives in the village and they can get cash. Or if they are stranded, they can use their airtime to get cash and then have access to services. Then we also have a number of people who are regular people who are banked already, but they probably have excess airtime from different places, or they also do a bit of airtime trading. So we've seen that high of our volumes comes from those guys. So the question is, for our branding, we're kind of stuck between, do we stick to what we feel is the solution we're providing, which is to help people who are really unbanked have access to services, or do you pivot into the other people who are using the majorly to convert their airtime and just trade airtime and then make money off it. So it's always like, do you do financial inclusion or do you do digital trading? And we have more of our revenue coming from digital trading folks, or more numbers from the financial inclusion part. So that's where we're kind of stuck between one of the two. And it's one product, it's one mobile app, and so that's the major issue we have. Thank you.
You can't do both. Is that not to continue to get into both?
Yes, but for your image, that's one complaint. So the people who are financially excluded will probably just on the road, on the streets, will probably just go to areas. So you can do technically, but you take a lot of your resources because then you either focusing on people who are in normal areas and then totally bound and going to start trading, or you want to people who are in remote areas. So while you can technically do both at the same time, it does need to, I want people to see the product and think of only one thing, which is probably, sorry. So why you can do both, and we've been doing both and trying to combine both, but you also have to maybe have sort of an identity where anybody who comes in knows that with this application now, anybody can have access to financial services, or with this application I can make money off my airtime. So we're doing both, but it does feel like we might need to, because we're also expanding to other countries, so we might need to stick with one of the stories that would be more compelling.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'll be able to help you, but I think with expanding into other countries, you need to also have an understanding of what is the norm in those countries. What you're saying, you said Tintel, that's it. It sounds like mobile money. Yes. So MTN, Airtel, Tingo, and all these things, right? Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So in expanding, I can answer that question. In expanding to other countries, the mobile money is more rampant in other African countries. For example, Uganda, Ghana, all of them. So in making a decision on how to position yourself in those countries, I would try to find a unique proposition that's different from all the other mobile money operators in those countries, right? And if digital trading is there, or if that's where it is, if that's what differentiates you, I don't think I would decouple it from your identity. What is instinctively coming to me is that you can still manage to communicate both, because what is happening is that your two audiences, like the digital trading guys seem to be keeping you running, and then you're doing the financial inclusion thing in order to reach more people. So you have more people in the financial inclusion pocket, but they may not have as much income or, yeah. I feel like you just need to, honestly, I think you should do I think you should do both. I think I don't think I'm answering this question well, so I'm going to pass it on to someone who can help you better. But I really think I think you shouldn't have to pick, and there should be a way to tell your story in a way that combines both. And then the channels will be different, right? Like where you're meeting the people and where you're meeting the different audiences would then be different. And then your messaging, like the copy and the way you're crafting your messaging is what differs for both. But it's a good problem to have. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. I think I agree with you that you should be able to manage both. But there was something I learned from a lawyer I spoke to. And he tried to explain the difference between the brand name and the corporate name. So there's a corporate brand, a corporate company that is registered with the government, and you have a brand name that is easily recognizable by your target audience. Now, if this is something very familiar, something like the issue Tommy Hilfiger had, where he wants to create a brand, but different set of people are using it for something different. But what you could try to do is you could split the brand into two, create a separate brand for the digital trade guys, and create and keep the brand that you want to have for financial inclusion. But that can work if you have a corporate brand that houses both brands. So you could think of it as a central narrative that cuts across those two things. There's something you're enabling them to. So there are a lot of companies that have different products, but there's a narrative about the unique problem you're solving. For Money Point, it's financial happiness. So you're using Money Point to sell Amala, or you're using Money Point to close business deals. It's the same thing. It's the same core thing that's underlying both use cases. But you now have a different brand. Say you have a payments brand, and you have a brand that handles the POS, you have a brand that handles, but there's a holding company or a corporate brand that houses both. A good example of this is Nestle. Nestle has Nescafe, the coffee for everybody. But there's Nespresso, the more premium brand that a lot of people also use. You could have both. And Nestle also have Milo, the breakfast of
Yeah. So I think that people that I should keep it of them. And I think that's instead of first it's a good problem to have, but instead of worrying about how to split the identity, I think you can focus on the main thing, which is the first what you initially intended to do with the product, and then show people how the other ways that you can use the product. And okay, but yeah, I think you should. I think that's where your storytelling comes in, is how you are showing people the other ways that you can use. Like, yes, what I was going to say was that sometimes it starts out one way, and then the audience shows us where to go. And so it's important to listen as well. So you want to do something, and I think you can keep doing that. But your storytelling, I don't think your identity needs to change. I think it's the storytelling, how you tell the ways that people can use this product, that will then show people that it's still the same product, but this is how you can exploit.
All right.
Can you give panelists a round of applause? I think it's been a really interesting and exciting session. And please, can we give them another round of applause? Thank you so much. I think they're taking the time to answer all of our questions judiciously. And I mean, I'm saying it again, it feels like the preamble to a master class. If only there will be a master class next week. All right, real quick, I want to do something for us. Of course, like you know, this is the of course, you that startup leaders exist to help startups such as the ones that we all have to grow by providing you access to things like funds, things like grants, and of course, having an opportunity like this will also network with other founders such as yourself. You could do us a favor by going on Instagram and following Startup Lagos on Instagram. Let me just quickly get us there. And then, of course, when you take pictures at this event, we also want to use the hashtag Startup and hashtag Mushroom Mixer, right? So when you take pictures, let's use Mushroom Mixer. Startup Lagos. Our Instagram handle is Startup Lag, that is Startup LAG. The same X handle, Startup Lag, and on Facebook, Startup Lagos, and LinkedIn, it's also Startup Lagos. Alright? Okay, on that note, we have come to the end of this edition of the Startup Lagos Mushroom Mixer. And of course, I want to believe that every single one of us here got something to go home with, something that's meaningful and valuable that definitely you can apply for yourselves, for your business, and your career. All right, so I'm going to bring this event to you around. Please help me put your hands together. Welcome the founder of the delegation, Mr. Victor.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to round it up. First is to be able to thank. Oh God, calm down. Okay, we had some amazing speakers in the house. I don't know how the team did it, but can we give them a round of applause, okay? I'm sure for myself because again, I'm supposed to be in so many places. There's a marketing edge, I want a couple of things. But when I saw the line of the speakers to be frankly and the team, I was like, I should be here. Let's how did they get these guys into one room? I don't understand. But again, okay, apart from the fact that I look for is almost 1,000 naira, and I'm wondering why this is not, why everybody's not chasing this guy, because if you need to patronize the agencies, you will pay an arm and a leg. These are top-notch people, and I want to say a big thank you to them, to get them to sacrifice their time Saturday evening. It's let's give them a round of applause. They're proud of themselves. I've run an agency for 15 years. It's expensive having an agency, and I think one of the speakers had said that you need help get an agency. That's when you know that they really sacrificed a lot for us this evening. First is to thank them, and then to thank everyone of you. I do hope you learned something from them. Did you? Round of applause for yourself for taking the time this evening to show up, because again, storytelling is an integral part of how you build a brand. Most people don't know how to do that, but I can boldly tell you, in this new world and age, it's like imagine a brand that's on social media. Just think of it. It's the same way. Daniel, great guy of mine, we've been together for 6, 7, 8 years. Give him a round of applause also. Phenomenal work every time. Phenomenal work. Outstanding guy. Okay? But Daniel should tell you about me before. I didn't have any social media page, and I'm not kidding. Maybe Facebook. I had none until I gave it 2000 or something. No, 2020 or 2021. Let's go back, because before that, before 2021, it didn't matter. It was building the company. But now people want to see the person behind the company. Do you understand those things? They want to see. They want to relate to you. They want to see. It's not about UBA. Who is it to be behind UBA? Do you understand? So if you're building a brand, building an organization, and you cannot let people see the person behind it, you will not experience that massive connectivity with your people. And so I think this is a big one. A big thank you to the team. A big thank you to the panelists. A big thank you to the guys who have showed up today. And it's grateful. Thanks for putting everything together. And I think the next one is another 1 or 2 months. I think every quarter we do another one. I think in November thereabout. And I do hope you can come in and be a part of this. So on behalf of everyone, the whole team especially, and a big thank you. This is officially a close, but you don't have to step up. We've got excess cocktail drinks for you to just network. The speakers, luckily by the time they stood up, we've taken all their seats, so they are standing. Engage them, have some time with them, talk to them. There are a few board games in here. Just generally feel free and spend enough time. And I'm sure by 12 p.m. you should be tired and go home. Thank everyone for showing up, and you have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Where's this man?
Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
I didn't know you were around.
I came a bit late, like around 5-ish.
We started before 4 p.m. You guys also know, but many people were delayed.
I guess that's much. No, this was why I actually came here to see how people interact with you. Because I was trying to see that for this, okay. I understand. Maybe other people. Yes. No, let's see how we have that conversation. Yeah, fine. Thank you very much. I have another event, so I'm taking my leave now. All right.
Baby, Thank you.